The Crown Royal 400 on FX is sponsored by Visa. Go on, live life, and remember that no matter what it takes, life takes Visa.
We've just restarted, and Harvick wants the lead right up the middle. And Biffle, I think, wisely lets him go.
That's award number 2 right there, because that took some good hands for everybody to get through that mess.
Well, you got Casey Kane in the 9 trying to get one of his laps back now that he has 8 plug wires attached. He had lost one. And in our Craftsman pit summary, got the same top 5, just jumbled them up a bit.
But you know what? Back to Casey Kane. If you've got a good race car, you can make laps up here. We watched Robbie Gordon a couple of years ago make up 3 laps when the caution would come out early in the race. So he definitely could get back on the lead lap. But he's got work to do, especially with that 29 car up there, Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, and the other thing is, guys they don't take kindly to you.
Turn 2, Stewart gave the boot. They got all wound up in traffic, and Stewart got into the back of Clint Boyer. Not intentionally, but somebody checked up in front of the Prilosec car, and Boyer checked up, and Stewart was on it.
Nothing you can do.
That's what you want to hear. You get it back. Nothing you can do. Settle in.
See how this got started.
Tony's coming down the corner here. I think that 61 car broke the momentum of Boyer's car just a tad. He had to check up for him. Tony just got to run, got to bump into the back of him.
They definitely started stacking up in front of Clint Boyer. Boyer got out of the throttle. Tony just barely gets into it.
Right, but I was going to talk about the 9 car. The guys, they won't cut you a lot of slack when you're 5 laps down. They think you ought to get out of their way. They don't care if you're trying to get them back or not. And they don't care how fast you are. They just know you're 5 laps down. Get out of the way.
Tell you what, when we see this 24 car, Jeff Gordon running this good early in the race, Steve Burns, it could be a bad sign for the competition up there battling Biffle for the 3rd spot.
Yeah, Larry Mack, and Jeff Gordon's big concern. I said he was tight getting in, tight in the middle, but loose when he got on the throttle, early throttle as he called it. After the pit stop, these teams look at the tires. Crew Chief Steve Letarte told him, we're wearing the left front and the right rear a lot, so be careful. Dick Burton.
Mark Martin came on the radio just a few moments ago. We've got a caution on the speedway.
And it is Jeff Green and Casey Mears. And I believe this was all in aftermath to a problem that Jeff Burton had coming off turn number 4. Darrell, it's that accordion effect. Something happens here, and by the time the rest of the pack reacts, big things happen back there.
Unlike Bristol and Martinsville, where you just can't help but run over the guy in front of you when something like that happens, and everybody gets involved. Here it's usually 1 or 2 cars.
But there's a prime example again here on the front stretch. A lot of room. 2 cars basically spin out with little to no damage to speak of.
See if we can see what happened here.
Well, this will be the spin here. Jeff Green, Jimmy Johnson.
There you go. It's the same thing. Whoa, Jimmy Johnson. Did he get damaged? Got a little lick there.
Tony Stewart just barely gets by in that 20
you know, Larry, that's the 3rd time now I've seen a car coming off the corner, just bust the rear tires loose, spin out.
Well up on the straightaway.
Yeah.
So, Matt, that really didn't involve what happened to Jeff Burton 100 yards further forward, did it?
But Burton came on the radio. You're right, Mike. When Burton came on the radio, said, I don't know. I just ran over somebody bad. This race car is all over the racetrack.
Yeah, he hit the gas in turn 4 and jumped sideways a whole lane and got it back, and things started to stack up.
There's somebody's brake rotor laying over on the back straightaway.
Steve?
Well, Mike, they don't know what's wrong with that 17 of Matt Kenseth. You see the guys looking at the rear, underneath the rear of the race car. They just said the oil tank is broken. Oil tank is broken. They're going to go behind the wall.
Well, that could have been where that piece of brake rotor went, Darrell.
There's a great big piece of brake rotor laying over. I saw that, and I think he must have run over it. There you go.
There it is.
Somebody's got no brakes, and it's caused Matt Kenseth to have no oil in his tank.
Now, he came in here 2nd in points, and this will be quite a blow. Larry, what are the chances of getting that fixed and getting him back out without losing a whole lot of time?
Well, I'm sure they are prepared. You know, race teams have preparation. Robbie Reiser, the crew chief, they have a game plan on almost every situation that could come your way. They probably have a spare oil tank. They'll have to take the lines loose, and I'm sure pretty quickly they'll get that thing changed.
I want to know who doesn't have a brake rotor. That's what I want to know.
Well, we'll see who comes in the pits and can't stop. Let's listen to Jeff Burton's on board here. A singular Chevy.
I just ran over something. Behind your caution's out.
And he jumped sideways a whole lane when that happened.
He decided not to give up track position, sitting there in 10th. It's only been about 10 laps since all these cars pitted. We had about 7 or 8 cars that did pit, including Tony Stewart, Robbie Gordon, Casey Mears, and Jeff Green that was involved in the spin here on the front stretch.
Well, now, if you run a dual master cylinder system for the brakes, if you lose a piece of a brake rotor right there, will the car still stop on the other system?
No. The balance bar just will pivot so far that it'll stop you initially, but it'll eventually not stop you at all.
Okay.
Because you have a balance bar, one for each master cylinder. And when you lose one, it cocks itself sideways. You got no brakes.
82 laps complete in the Crown Royal 400. Welcome back to the Crown Royal 400 on FX. This is a Visa race brake.
That's appropriate.
Well, brake rotor, or broke rotor in this case, and we're still not sure whose car it came from. Now watch Matt Kenseth, who has a punctured oil tank, and Casey Kane right behind him. And there's the chunk of rotor after maybe it came off Kane's car, or after maybe it went through Kenseth's oil tank.
A lot like the glove at Fontana. We've not found where it came from, but trust me, we will find out where this piece of brake rotor came from.
We're still looking.
I know one thing, that's a smart man right there. He didn't try to pick it up with his bare hands.
Robbie Reiser's crew hard at work making repairs. Let's go down to our Ford Fusion cutaway car, Jeff Hammond.
Mike, we're talking about brakes. This place at Richmond is a lot like Martinsville. You've got to cool your brakes. Brakes can become an issue. These rotors we're talking about are extremely heavy and very, very solid steel. Even if you break half of it in two, it weighs a lot and is very dangerous. Again, this is the brake system they're running here tonight. Big scoop at the front, 3 hoses going in, all this carbon fiber trying to cool this rotor, which sometimes will get in excess almost 1,300 degrees. We saw the safety worker using a shovel to make sure he doesn't burn himself. But now what happened to the 17 car, at least we believe, is a piece of that brake rotor, or part of it, has broken off, flown up underneath the race car. Here's where the oil tank is located. A piece of that is punctured the bottom of this oil tank, which is exposed to the bottom side of the racetrack, which is in a fairly safe position, but a piece of brake rotor punches a hole inside this oil tank. Obviously, all of a sudden, the oiling system does not work. As you can take a look here, once they lose this, they've got to replace it as well as fill it up, Steve.
Jeff, we're looking at the replacement oil tank as we come away from the Ford Fusion cutaway car. Robbie Reiser, the crew chief, just said, let's drain all the oil out of the cracked oil pipe. Then we'll put the new oil tank on and refill it. That way the system will stay full. Matt Yoakum, 12 mechanics working on this race car.
The 9 of Casey Kane making his way to the pit box now. A lot of radio conversation back and forth about that brake rotor. They were telling Casey about what they saw from our video. Casey says, well, that explains, because I thought my left front ran through some oil because it sort of skipped on the racetrack, but he didn't want to take a chance on possibly having a tire cut down, so they were going to make their way down the pit road. You can see the work going on. Also, the 20 of Tony Stewart pitted. They made a number of adjustments, pulled 2 spring rubbers on one side, 1 spring rubber on the other. His race car definitely not up to his liking. And then he said, hey, any stories developing down there on pit road? Greg Cipodelli updated him on the 17's brake problems at Kenseth, and also the 9 of Kane with the plug wire. He says, well, it's pretty quiet in my area too. I'll see what I can do to kind of spark it up a little bit coming up here on the green.
Thanks, Matt. We're under the 4th caution flag of the night, and we've not yet completed 100 laps, Chris.
Yeah, we've been racing, Mike, for just about an hour. Greg Biffle, the pole sitter, has led the most laps at 54. Frank Beamer, head coach at Virginia Tech, the honorary starter. At BCS, the proud home of college football, Fox starting in January. Roush teammates Mark Martin and Biffle trying to work things a little bit early. But Kevin Harvick and Mark Martin have been the only other 2 leaders other than Biffle in this race. Problems here on lap 21. That's Scott Wimmer out in front. You see Jeremy Mayfield get squeezed, bringing out a caution flag. Wimmer was okay. Casey Kane, who won this race last year, roughed up in Talladega, having to make a pit stop and trying to rally. Lap 66 now. Tony Raines, Hall of Fame racing. A blurry scene here, bringing out another caution. And Matt Kenseth, second in points, second in this race, running until he had a bad brake or a bad brake rotor, as Jeff Hammond explained, bringing out the caution and problems for him. This has been a Visa Race Break. No matter what it takes, life takes Visa. Kevin Harvick, your leader.